Thanks to the awful Equifax hack, cybersecurity is back on the front pages. And however brutal this turns out to be for Equifax, to say nothing of the millions of people whose social security numbers have been stolen, you better believe this is going to be a huge boom for the cybersecurity industry. Many of these stocks, they've caught fire here, because what board of directors wants to be caught napping on the job with data security after the Equifax debacle? Take Mimecast, that's M-I-M-E for you home gamers. It's a provider of cloud security and risk management services for corporate information with a particular focus on protecting email. Mime stock, it's rallied a lot. It's up more than 50% this year. And that's after nearly doubling in 2016. All told, the darn thing has given you a remarkable 175% rally since the stock came public in November 2015. In short, it has been a home run. The question is, can it continue to roar? Good to see you, sir. Have a seat.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. All right, first, I always think that this market is saturated, and then we find out how few companies have really taken care of business. Where do you think we are in the evolution of trying to stop cybersecurity and also in email security?
Well, Jim, I think it's a never-ending story, because as we innovate and develop more and more digital technologies that the world becomes reliant on, so vulnerabilities happen right behind them as technology changes. And there's a large number of adversaries really interested in profiteering or sabotaging organizations digitally.
Now, if I hire Mimecast, like a major aerospace company did, because they had several divisions and they were dueling it out about who's the best, and I'm the top guy at that aerospace company, do I say I want to protect my employees who might click on the wrong link and then hurt themselves, or am I trying to protect the organization itself?
Well, I think they're both linked, because particularly with email security, attackers have figured out that the human sitting behind the computer is one of the weakest links. And what an attacker is really interested in is, can they get hold of credentials? Could they deploy malware on that person's machine? Or could they get their help or cooperation in some way in launching an attack?
Okay, well, brings me to Equifax. See, now, if they have my I'm pretty sure that they have my social security number, and they have my address, because I applied for a loan. They have my age. They have, I don't know if they have my passwords, but they have a lot. Well, I mean, if someone sends me an email that says, listen, you've got to attend to this immediately, and it has all my information, how do I know that's not real?
Well, that's really tricky to figure out, and it takes a trained eye, and so employee education is really important. But what technology can do is it can really examine emails that are coming into organizations and look very precisely at what might indicate an impersonation is taking place, what might look like a fraud. And that's really where Mimecast comes in, and a huge amount of our work is around building the technology to make email safer for business.
Have you been able, has any board of directors asked you to speak to them?
We talk to management teams at companies every single day.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask that is because I think after Equifax, I would probably want to have a big company that has real data breach issues where the enterprise could be at stake. I think it's time to bring guys like you into the boardroom. We can't just have it so it's some chief officer that's not the CEO. It's too dangerous.
It really does raise the issue of how seriously our boards take cybersecurity.
Thank you. Because I want to know why they don't take it more seriously. Is it because they're not fired? Is it because they're somehow protected? I mean, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking to myself, what makes me want to call you if I don't have any penalty? If I don't?
Absolutely. And with new regulations like GDPR, for example, coming through in Europe, the size of the penalties to organizations is really significant. And so I think that this is really raising the visibility for boards around cybersecurity.
Okay, now in your conference call, you talked about a spike that comes from the end of life of Intel, not be supporting the McAfee product, which we know Proofpoint, because they've been on our show a number of times, was the provider that they suggested you go to. But you've gotten a lot of business from the end of that, too. You said that this may be a short-term spike. Or is Wall Street or investors prepared that your business may go down from that?
We've benefited terrifically from the McAfee end of life. We've got hundreds of new logos on board. We've won a significant number of new partner accounts as well. I think what we said in our prior fiscal year that ended March was that 10 to 20% of our new business came from those McAfee customers.
Right. But, that made me worry that perhaps people don't understand that that's going to run out.
Well, there's a terrific opportunity ahead in terms of cross-selling those customers additional products from our fabulous portfolio of products inside our suite.
Now, have you been able to go, look, I mentioned Proofpoint. I mean, they're up. You guys, tell me why I should go with Mimecast versus Proofpoint, because we've had them on, and they are a pretty terrific company.
So
Give me the pitch. It's the first time you've been on.
So Mimecast really focuses on solving these complex problems for what we would think of as the 99% of companies. So many of our competitors are focused on the megacorps, the really large organizations, and are underserving that mid-market. So, Jim, about over 75% of our revenue is actually done with organizations between 100 and 10,000 people.
I see. Okay. The reason I say that is because you've got at the top, Office 365, a major hotel chain, but right, that's 5,400 players, but an energy company with 14,000. So you're getting some big business now.
We certainly are being drawn into some opportunities with pretty large organizations, and we have some special things that we can help certain types of large organizations achieve, which we think is unique compared to our competitors.
Okay, one last, just tell our viewers, what are some things that look obvious to you that don't look obvious to them that they shouldn't click on?
Well, I think when one looks at the domain names and when organizations are receiving, or when people are receiving emails, have a very close look at the address that the message is actually coming from. Because we see a lot of what one would call typo squatting, where domains have been registered that look quite similar to a domain that you would expect. But it's actually not coming from the organization.
And we should, just a little bit of an inversion or something?
So, for example, we've seen Mimecast spelled with an R and an N, which next to each other, to a person without their spectacles on, looks a lot like an M.
All right, that's great advice. Everybody needs it these days. I want to thank Peter Bauer, co-founder and CEO of Mimecast. Been a red-hot stock. Well, why not? I mean, we've got a red-hot problem on our hands with all sorts of cybersecurity. Thank you so much, Peter. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Jim.
Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.